and welcome to What's Next Wall Street. I'm Georgia Alfredas. This is a show about stocks, crypto, and the new decentralized financial Web3 world around us. I've got details on all the hot new trending products that everybody's talking about, using and investing in. And today, I feel so all alone because Dave is normally here to talk all things tech, but he's off in Europe or Asia or Mexico somewhere. We cannot keep up with Dave. It's like find Waldo with this guy. But we are happy to have Greg Krause, lead instructor at OptionsPlayers.com, filling in. Greg charts a lot of the companies that we talk about, and those chart indicators can show where a particular stock is headed. So Greg combines technical analysis with trading fundamentals, making it easier to target investment potential. So our goal here is to provide you with education, information, and tips so that you become a more informed trader with a tailored trade plan so that you can stay up to speed with what's next on Wall Street and keep stacking gains. Connect with us through email at OptionsPlayers.com or hit us up on social media at What's Next Wall Street with your questions and comments. We can also direct you to instructors and experts over at OptionsPlayers.com who really they dig into trading fundamentals. Now, we always reply, always. And a lot of times your email questions and comments wind up on What's Next Wall Street. Lots of ways you can check out our podcast. You can watch it on YouTube, on the Options Players YouTube channel, or listen to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. So subscribe, hit that alert button so you know what's up on What's Next Wall Street. And if you like it, give us 5 stars. But what's not to like? So, Amazon shareholders have approved a 20-for-1 stock split. Yes. The company says the split's going to give employees more flexibility in how they manage equity and make the stock more accessible to other investors. So, the split's going to happen around June 3rd. I bought Amazon in anticipation of this split, but let me tell you, it has been hard to hold on to. So, Greg, let me ask you something. I've been holding on to it. Actually, I can't say that I saw this coming. My husband was like, you really need Amazon in your portfolio. So how do stocks typically perform when there's a split approved? And more specifically, for myself, quite selfishly, what do you foresee with Amazon stock?
Well, statistically, about 30% of the time, once a stock splits, it goes down. So, and the rest of the time it goes up, of course, and it dramatically goes up more than it goes down. So it's in a favor it goes up. But then you're also looking at the market naturally almost always goes up anyways, right? So how does it compare to the market? There's a slight to the plus side, right? But these are normally companies that have already been growing and their stock has gone from 300 to, like in Amazon's case, all the way up to 3,000, and I know it's down. So they had to grow to split, so it's normally a healthier stock. So it does outperform regular stocks in that case. So it's kind of a bias. Is Amazon going to go up after its stock? I think it's pretty much been beat up in the last 7 months. It's pretty much down. I would have to really look, about 50%. It's gotten killed. So I think it's after the split, it's more about how the consumer is the consumer going to actually start purchasing? And that's the problem. We had Wall Street came out with their earnings that's showing maybe a little bit the consumer sentiment is a little bit down. They're not spending as much. Same with Amazon. They're fearing the same thing. So
meanwhile, I got like 5 boxes outside my door right now from Amazon.
Get them every day. It's out in front of the house. My wife comes home and is like, "Oh, and go get that package on the front door."
That's me every day. I'm like, "Honey,
right?
Do you see the packages? Grab them."
But so I think it's more on the consumer at this point whether to go up initially. There are some things with stock splits you have to worry about or will change the way that you trade it. For example, let's just say, I know Amazon's not at 3,000. Let's just use $3,000 as an example. So we split 3,000 from 3,000 and we do a split and give them 10, right? So now it's 300. So the average new investor might not want to spend 3,000 on this, right? They may only have, $600. So now you're inviting a little bit more retail investors to come in. So this is going to bring in new people that wouldn't always trade that in or invest in it. Then you have things, maybe an individual that has a retirement account or some type of sheltered account, and they like to have some type of covered call strategy or purchase options on them or sell options on them. An individual couldn't buy 100 shares of Amazon and then sell a covered call on it because it would cost $300,000. Now it's going to cost $30,000. So that's a little bit, a lot better actually, crazy. But it would increase liquidity. That means it's going to be easier to get into, and out of. But that comes with other risks, right? Before, who could really afford large chunks of this stock?
Right.
Firms, people that held it. So when you bring it down, you might have a little bit more manipulation going on to try to steal from those retail investors that are buying at 300. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. Just know that now everybody's going to get into it, and now it's in that not meme stock, but now it's cheap enough where people can afford options, and they're going to go crazy on it. You're going to see the option volume is probably going to be crazy on it compared to what it is now. So there are a few consequences that you have.
But that seems like good news to me. If you have stock in Amazon, that seems like that's great news.
Like I said, when things split, the stock is doing great because the number's gone up so high, it needs to cut it to allow the average person to really buy some in that sense. Again, this is why they do it. It adds liquidity, so it's easier to get into and out of. And like I said, besides the fact that it's easier to get in and out of, so it's going to be easier to manipulate, it's a good thing. Just whether if it goes up or down, that's up to the market right now, I think, in our little scenario we're in right now with the consumers.
So if you don't have Amazon right now, should you be buying it? What's your opinion?
I mean, if you're going to hold it for a long period of time, I don't see Amazon going away. I only see them growing. So, yeah, I would say it's a solid bet there. It'll outpace the market in the next 10 years or so.
Okay. All right, cool. Okay, in other news, more sanctions against Russia. The Biden administration has blocked Russia's government from paying bondholders through American banks. That move increases the possibility of Russia defaulting on its outstanding debt. So Russia's facing nearly $400 million in payments due on dollar-dominated bonds in late June. Meanwhile, the U.S. is trying to boost its economic profile in Asia, where China is the most dominant. The U.S. recently announced the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework with Asian partners, including Australia, Japan, and the Republic of Korea. Now, they're aiming to set international rules on the digital economy, supply chains, and regulation applying to workers. President Biden said that this is going to help lower costs by making supply chains more resilient in the long run, which we know we need. Can something like this actually work, Greg?
All right, so you're asking me if a government program...
I'm sorry, I accidentally mentioned government.
So this is where everybody thinks we're in a capitalist market. We're not. United States is not a capitalist country. We're not. All right, there's no free market. And this is what is the largest country in the second largest economy, about to be the first largest economy in Asia?
It's China.
Okay, and we're not talking to China to do this. We're only talking to Australia. What do they make? I'm sorry, Australian, I love you. India has a lot of people. They can grow, and then all the other. I don't know how to say it. I mean, you're leaving out the biggest person in the thing and thinking you're going to make a change. Number two, you're going to add regulations. I'm all for workers having the right rights, but we're going to force
other countries,
our beliefs on other countries
that
might make a soccer ball and get paid a nickel, but they don't care because we look at them like they only make $500 a year. Well, $500 for them is like $100,000 for us. Who knows? Value is the money's different. But yeah, I mean, we're going to make all these rules. We're going to change that, and then we're going to come, and then it's going to get cheaper because it's more efficient. That's
wow. How do you really
When
feel?
has the government ever been more efficient at anything? Because the government's going to hire who? Going to hire someone that couldn't probably make it in the private sector and get paid a lot. And then they're going to pay them $50,000, a government salary, to run something. Like, if they were any good, they'd be making $500,000 in the private sector. But that's who's going to run this? Get out of here. No, it will not work.
Okay.
Done.
Thank you, Greg. This seems crazy to me, but because we just talked about this, right? A lot of I'm hearing too many different scenarios. A lot of economic experts are saying that Americans should not be concerned about a recession in the next 6 to 12 months. They point to strong consumer spending, low unemployment, and job growth as indicators of a healthy economic economy. So Bank of America CEO Brian Moynihan went so far as to say that nothing is going to slow down the everyday U.S. consumer from spending money. I must be the everyday U.S. consumer because my husband literally says this about me daily. Moynihan says American consumers are in good shape. These are his words, not mine, and will continue to spend at a high rate. Again, I'm that consumer. This comes as the Federal Reserve has been raising interest rates to combat rising inflation across the U.S. Inflation in the U.S., by the way, has hit a 40-year high. Now, Moynihan says he believes the Fed's going to be able to manage the flow. And again, government, feds, I shouldn't even ask you. Are they going to be able to manage the flow, Greg?
Well, they already failed to manage it, and I think they've already admitted to it, or at least some of them have. And I mean, it's a hard thing because everybody can look back and hindsight's 2020, and they say, hey, we should have done this, you shouldn't have done that. Like we should have raised rates. I don't think the problem is all rates. I'm in that camp. I think rates should be a little bit higher. If the economy is doing good, rates should be up. That's the whole purpose of it. I think it's more. We had supply issues, right? So, they're like, oh, supply issues, let's do stuff overseas more. Like, I don't really get it, and then consumer spending. Is anything going to slow down the consumer? Not if you're giving them free money and we're boosting it. If you really look at how much economic relief that we've put into it during COVID, it's just crazy. Under Trump, it was over $4 trillion in direct, right there, direct stimulus and everything else coming into, or indirect stimulus, going into bonds and the other market. Almost $1 trillion in direct payments to individuals. And then businesses, another crazy amount that are forgivable loans that almost, not all of them, but a good amount of them have already been in default. You're just handing people money. Of course, the consumers are going to keep spending it. The average income per person has gone up since COVID and continued to go up. So, there's more money out there. The problem is when we turn that spigot off, is that going to affect it? And that is kind of what we'll see. I think with inflation, the reason for inflation is consumers are buying so much. They have more money. Don't just look at it as we're printing money, which that's where they got it. So the more money you get, it pushes the demand curve over, right? Because you have more income. That's a determinant of a demand curve. But then you also have supply issues, and then you have people printing extra money. So it's like a trifecta of craziness for this inflation. I think inflation is dramatically underrated, okay? If you go look at like the consumer price index and things and you look into it, they were saying that housing market is up like 5% this year or in the last year and 5% before that. So you're telling me since the pandemic, houses have only gone up 10%?
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Right.
And this is how I'm not going to say government. This is how people do it. They round things off. If they don't like it, I don't know how they do it. It's kind of like unemployment, right? Unemployment only counts if you're actually actively looking for a job and this and this and this and this. Well, that's not the true number, but I understand what you're saying. And they round off those housing prices. And I think they'll start, since automobiles are so crazy high now, they're probably going to change how I'm saying this, I don't know if anybody else said, they're going to change how they evaluate car prices just so they can smooth them out and change it to make it look better on paper. There's absolutely no way that housing has only gone up 10% in 2 years.
Yeah.
I know we're in Dallas here. You might as well add a zero to the end of that.
Absolutely.
I know where I live, it's not a zero, but it's still, I would say probably 30-40%.
Sure.
And we don't have people like trying to beg to come out to the middle of nowhere. That's a huge one there. So that's all I got on that one.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And that's a lot.
Yeah.
Speaking of Bank of America, they are raising their hourly minimum wage for employees to $22 an hour. Now, this brings the banking giant one step closer to their original pledge of paying workers in the U.S. $25 an hour by 2025. So Bank of America is trying to attract and retain the best talent. That's what they say. That's their quote. So the lowest hourly minimum wage, I thought this was interesting, right now is $7.25. That's what kids in the great state of Texas are making. But it could be worse. People working for really small businesses in Wyoming are getting $5.15 an hour. Now, the state with the highest minimum wage, of course, California, at $15 an hour. Now, I was like 15 years old when I got my first job, right, at the mall. The minimum wage was about $3.80 an hour. Thank God for commission. So, Greg, your first job, what was your hourly minimum wage?
It was definitely more than $3.
Well, I got a little age on you, so.
Yeah, I would say it would have been in the 90s, mid and late 90s. And it was Walmart. I think it was like 6 something. I don't really know. But
yeah,
it was
but you didn't get commission, so I was still making more bank than you.
But then I got fired, and then I went to work for BDS. Well, I went to go work for Stream, like a computer company, made good money, $15 an hour. And then I went to work for BDS Marketing. I made 15 plus commission.
I got to hear why you got fired. What did you do at Walmart to
it's
get fired?
Not appropriate for this place right here.
Oh my gosh, I cannot wait to hear this story.
But a customer said some stuff, and I wasn't having it. So they were like, "Well, you're going to get written up." I was like, "Well, you can just fire me." And I just left I was a cashier manager and everything. I just left everything there. They were calling me for my key. I was like, I threw it. It's in the
Oh
store
my gosh, Greg,
But-
not you, not sweet.
Yeah,
Greg.
I was a young kid. It was right when Super Walmarts came out. So
Yeah.
you had all the people that worked at regular Walmarts, where I worked there for like a week, and then they started building Walmarts everywhere.
Yeah.
And then if you worked at a Walmart, you just got a position somewhere else, and then I was a kid. I didn't really care.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, that's hilarious. So this is super cool and surprising. More than 150 millionaires want to pay higher taxes. Okay, that's not really a lot when you think 150, but you heard me right. They want to pay more in taxes. A group known as Patriotic Millionaires is calling on the World Economic Forum to make it happen. Actor Mark Ruffalo, we know him as the big green guy, right? The Hulk, and heiress Abigail Disney are among the notables who signed an open letter saying, "Tax us, the rich, and tax us now." The letter called on elites at the WEF summit in Switzerland to publicly support efforts to tax the rich and acknowledge the danger of unchecked wealth inequality around the world. Speaking of wealth inequality, I must have been doing something wrong during the height of the pandemic, because as my bank account balance was going down, well, my Amazon package rate was going up, as we talked about earlier, but that's not what we're talking about right now. A new analysis from Oxfam shows a new billionaire was created about every 30 hours during the COVID-19 pandemic. Excuse me, what? Statistics released by Oxfam shows some 573 people became billionaires globally since 2020, bringing the worldwide total to 2,668. I'll bet you can guess how. The increase was driven by strong gains in the stock market. Meanwhile, this report, which looks at the rise of inequality, estimates up to 260 million or 263 million people could be pushed into extreme poverty worldwide by this year. This portion of the show is brought to you by a product that I use every single day, Athletic Greens. So here's the thing. Everybody's always telling me, you got to slow down. You do too much. I even talk too fast. But tell that to my three boys, and tell it to the basketball games, the baseball games, the golf practices, the school events, the summer camps. Wait, there's a good break for mommy, but I digress. Okay, I still got my stuff too. My radio gig, my podcast, auditions, shoots, my husband. Hello. It's a lot. So I don't always have time to do the right things, like make sure I'm getting all my vitamins. That's where Athletic Greens comes in. Every morning, I mix 1 scoop of Athletic Greens with a glass of cold water. With that 1 8-ounce glass, I'm absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens before I even walk out the door. So here are my takeaways. Most importantly for me, Athletic Greens, it just efficiently fills my dietary gaps, okay? I maintain energy throughout the day, have better mental alertness. I find that I get better sleep quality and recovery, and y'all know I'm all about the babies, okay? So for every purchase, Athletic Greens donates to organizations that help get nutritious foods to kids in need, including one of my faves, No Kid Hungry. So here's your takeaway. Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you got to do is visit athleticgreens.com/WNWS. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/WNWS to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Today's pro tip is brought to you by OptionsPlayers.com. Candlesticks are useful when trading, and here's why. They show you 4 price points, open, close, high, and low, throughout the period of time the trader specifies. And they can provide all of this info at a quick glance. Now, today's pro tip may seem obvious, but a lot of people, including myself at times, fail to follow this simple rule. Make sure you wait for the candlestick to actually close before taking a trade. Jumping the gun can cost you, because you won't have the actual full story until that candle is truly formed. So make sure you stay patient and then act accordingly. Hope this helps you stack some gains. All right, this is the part of the show where we get to hear from you. You can always hit us up on social media at What's Next Wall Street. Comment on our YouTube page or email us at WNW@OptionsPlayers.com. So this first email comes from Finner from upstate New York, who writes, I see this data sometimes posted, net deltas. What does it mean, and how can you use it to trade or formulate plans? Greg, what is net delta?
What's net delta? Okay, well, you can look at it two ways. All right, so a lot of people see a spread. So we'll use a spread as a method. Some people call net delta. So every option has a delta. For example, if you buy an at the money option, let's just say it's a 100 call on ABC. On that stock, that one might have a 50 delta. That means if the underlying stock moves up $1, that option price, in theory, should increase by 50 cents if there's nothing else changes. That's what the delta is. So it's basically a measurement of what the price of the option will do based upon the movement of the underlying.
Got it.
Now, if you have two options, you can have one option that's long and another option that's short. So you have a spread, like a vertical spread. They both have different options. One could be 50, the other one could be negative 30. Add them together, you have a delta of 20. That would be a net delta in that spread. More likely what he's trying to talk about is a portfolio. So we're looking at the entire portfolio. So you have stocks. Okay, so if a stock moves up $1, how much did the price move? Moved a dollar, right? But in options, it's not the same. It had to be deep in the money to be that. So we're looking at net delta. The closer you can get to 1, of course, it moves up with the thing. So if it's positive, it goes up when the market goes up. And if it's negative, it goes down. So closer to 0 you get, you don't have to worry about the market moving up or down because you've got different trades that basically hedge each other to make it even. This is kind of like an arbitrage play you can do if you really think, hey, I'm going to go over to this company. I think this one's going to go down. I think this one's going to go up. And essentially what you're trying to do is bet on those companies maybe, but then have very little systematic risk on the market overall. If someone is really looking into net debt or net delta, overall gamma and everything like that, they probably have a very good idea about portfolio management. But just know, if you think the market's going down or whatever you have is going down, you'll be in negative delta, net delta. If you think we're going up, you want to be in a positive delta. Okay. But now if you're unsure, you can get that negative delta and you can still probably bring in a little bit of income here through short options or something like that, while not having a risk overall in which way the market moves.
All right, thank you. Okay, so this next email is from John L. of Texas. John, Texas is a big place. You got to tell us where you're from. John writes, is there a concern that wealth effect might begin to precipitate a faster onset of recession both domestically and globally in the world? With inflation, poor performance in equities, and the dismal look of direction by voters might lead to less spending and feed into positive feedback loop that might continue to hurt equities and eventually commodities. Come on, John. Bank of America CEO just says we're good, so relax and let's keep spending. Greg, we talked about this a little bit earlier, so we didn't really get into equities and commodities. Can you answer this question?
What is he asking? If
I don't even know. It's like a lot.
Equality does what?
John, I appreciate this email, but there's a lot there. So he wants to know, okay, so he's asking with inflation, well, he says with like the wealth effect might begin to participate a faster onset of recession, both domestically and globally. He's like with inflation.
Right, so is he talking about wealth inequality, like all the wealth going to 1% of people? That's what I'm guessing that's what he's saying. Is that going to increase? That is an economics nightmare try to answer, okay? Because if I own a bunch of money and I hoard it, you think, oh, that's bad. Well, essentially it's de-inflation. But now if I hold one of a product, then it inflates that product price because I'm holding it, right? So there's 100 things out there and I hold 99 of them. The one that's still out there is worth more, right? Because someone else wants to buy it. Supply and demand. But on the wealth side, I'm not a fan of this. Everybody wants equality in wealth.
Yeah.
First off, I want to be blunt and look straight in the camera when I say that. That would be fine if everyone was equal. I'm not talking about race, ethnic. I'm talking about some people suck, aren't good. They're not hard workers. They shouldn't be considered the same way. I'm not the best person on the planet. There's people that try harder than me. There's people that are better than me. People that spend, they don't spend time with family or they do that and they put it out there. So yeah, it's not equal. There's now, are there some unfairities for people that probably make it harder to get than, say, maybe I did moving up through the military or something? Probably. But let's just understand, even in the same little areas, not everyone's equal. And never in history, I'll say that again. I'm trying to think of the professor who did this. I'm going to mess up his name. It's like Shettle or whatever. I'm not going to Google it. But he was discussing there's always inequality in wealth. Let's look back in the past. Did you think there was wealth at any time in history over a period of time? Absolutely not. And there's not going to be any in the future. And the reason why is someone's going to get power even when you do equal, and then they're going to take the stuff from the people that don't have power. And then what do you think they're going to do? They're going to have the wealth.
Yeah, it's world history.
Yeah, you can go back to a caveman, Whoever was the strongest was getting all the stuff. And you're like, well, it's not fair. You go hunt for me. The caveman's not going to let you do that. He's better than you. It's not going to be equal. Then, but there's like what I think it was like the four, not the regular four horsemen from the Bible, but kind of similar. It's like war can cause a little bit of equilibrium there because the farther rich will be paid more. Like revolutions, of course, that's because of the inequality, and then they kind of do that, and then someone takes charge and, get Nazi Germany or something. But and then you have, it just, that's what it is. Famine is one that can really bring it down, because regardless of what your wealth was, famine brought down a lot of inequalities in history. I really have to look into it. It's so weird. I know my first degree is ethics, and then so I kind of understand that from the finance part because that's kind of how I always did it. I can't believe I can't think of this guy's name. I wrote a whole dissertation on him. But inequality's there. You're not changing it, and if you do, just know all you're doing is transferring it to someone else who's going to take it from you. It might be good for now, but very soon it's going to go away. So will that cause inflation? Not really. No, you won't. At some point, the people that are in wealth have to give a little bit to the lower people so they can spend to actually give them more money. Do I think some point it's way too much, like the taxes thing you were talking about, like the millionaires want to tax more? I think you should. Taxes are the funniest thing on the planet. All right, so if I ask you what's your opinion, should richer people pay more taxes, what would you say?
I would say there should be a flat tax. That's my opinion.
All right. So you have an opinion, right?
Of course.
But then if I ask you, how should we do a heart surgery? What's your opinion going to be on that? Not, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't know anything about heart surgery. Yeah. Guess what? 99.9% of people out there don't know anything about taxes.
But we do pay taxes, them. So we feel like we know something about taxes.
But you also have a heart. Right?
Yes.
So it doesn't mean anything. People have this weird understanding like tax the rich. I wish I knew that we use it when we teach finance or I guess accounting more than anything in taxes. But there's a very good calculator out there where you can go and you can change it. Like you can remove earned income. You can increase the taxes of a certain bracket up to see what the actual gain will be. And there are a few things that I could really adjust it a lot. None of those is taxing the rich more. And I know this is going to sound bad, and I'm not in this category, and I'm not trying to be in that category.
Greg.
I'm chill where I'm at. No, I might have wealth, but I don't get it taxed because I don't bring it in income, right? So I don't even make that much now with pension and stuff. I don't make anything, buddy.
Greg.
So, but with that, it's like earned income. You remove earned income, that's crazy. That's a lot. And those top 10% are already paying 90-some% of the taxes. And if you increase it, really, how much more is that? It's not going to make a difference. I don't care. Now you have what's known as effective tax rate. Essentially, if you're married, you got one kid, and you make under $50K, you ain't paying taxes. You're getting a check back from the government, right? Regardless. And so really understanding taxes, I do think rich could pay more or a new form of taxes. So our taxes get overhauled, but the actual modern tax system was after World War II. They started, pay as you get your money in. So they started legislation. Legislation was passed so you could actually collect at the employer before you got the money. So they actually got it now. And that's why everybody goes like, oh, there's a fee if you don't file your taxes, right? It's like 10% of whatever you owe, blah, blah, and then it goes up. But if you just don't pay your taxes, but you file, the fee's only like 1%. It's like 2, then 1. Because they already got your money because they took it when you got paid. So they just really want you to file more than that. So,
it's a long and
I can't give the answer because if I give it, it's going to be wrong in some way, regardless of what I say. It's a conundrum there. Like you can't take the wealth away from someone because you're just going to give it to someone else.
Yeah.
It's not like it's going to be spread evenly. That doesn't happen. You can see that across every country in the last few centuries, for example, that tried that and have equality. I'm not going to get political about it or try to say they certain, like capitalism or this or that or is better, because there's really not a real capitalist country out there. We're a socialist capitalist country. So, I mean.
All right, so here's the thing. Here's the thing, John L. You need to hit Greg up at OptionsPlayers.com. And because your question was an amazing question, but it had a lot of different stuff in it. So, he hit, listen, if you want Greg, we got ethics. He's got a new ethics class, a history class, a finance class. Hit him up at OptionsPlayers.com. Y'all can hit us up on social media at What's Next Wall Street in the comment section on your YouTube page, or email us, email Greg at www.optionsplayers.com with your questions. Since we've got Greg here, we got to get into your secret sauce, and let's talk about your live streaming at OptionsPlayers.com. People always ask me about this. I'm like, okay, listen, just get into it. I have a specific question, actually, from my sister, Felicia, again. She's a teacher, so she's got the summer off, and she wants to trade along with you live. She drives me crazy. She's so on my nerves. So she's new to trading. What I want to know is, can a newbie benefit from live streaming immediately? Should she take some online courses first? Maybe do both at the same time? How can I get her off me? Like what? Just what can a newbie do?
Well, in the live stream, I wouldn't say it'd be very good for them to just come in there and not know anything, because I'm trading and I'm talking to individuals. I'm trying to explain why I'm doing it, and they've already have an understanding of what I'm talking about. So if you're new, you're going to ask me questions. And then I'm going to have to explain those. I'm going to miss trades. I miss trades all the time because we're just talking about whatever. I mean, we'll be talking about what our dog's doing or something. I'm like, I missed a trade. So, so I don't know about that one. I would say you probably need some fundamental before you come to there. It is what it is. So, you could take like the Sauce course that kind of give you the rundown. We have other ones. We have 2 Michaels that teach. One of them teaches a lot of more complex stuff. That's just really great if you're looking for spreads or incomes and different things. We have another one that does a little bit more charting and indicators. Either one of those courses probably give you a good enough background to come in, even without taking, say, my course, to understand what I'm doing. But just, you never traded options before. I don't know, but your sister's name's Felicia.
Bye, Felicia. Bye. So how do you know it's summer? Gas prices, hello. They always seem to surge in the summer. Of course, those on the West Coast are getting hit hardest with an average of over $6 a gallon. That's a photo right there, y'all, of a pump in San Francisco, by the way. If you're listening to the podcast, I'm referring to a photo of a gas pump that shows $7.75 a gallon. So obviously, Russia's invasion of Ukraine has had an impact, but gas prices seem to rise every summer, no matter what. I remember my parents saying this. We go on our family road trips, and they'd be like, gas is so expensive. So we've all heard that it's because oil companies want to get richer, and they know we're going on summer vacay no matter what. Well, of course they want to get richer. We've all blamed this administration or that administration. And yes, all those things can and do affect the price of gas. But what's always affects summer surge in gas? Y'all probably know this, but this was so new to me and I thought it was so cool. So play along. Summer gas. This is actually a thing. If Dave were here, he'd be like, yeah, duh, rolling his eyes because he's a car guy. But Dave's not here, so I can say whatever I want without his snarkiness. But I digress. For those of you like me who just drive cars and don't ever open the hoods, or maybe don't even know how, listen up. There's actually a winter grade fuel and a summer grade fuel, as Greg rolls his eyes at me because he knows too. And I'll bet you can guess by now which one is more expensive to produce. Here's the thing. Oil refineries actually have to shut down production temporarily while they switch from winter to summer grade fuel. The EPA, that's the Environmental Protection Agency, started the seasonal gas transition to help protect the environment way back before I was born, back in 1995. So the summer grade fuel, what are you laughing at, Joe? Our producer over there, I don't know what you're laughing about. You don't know when I was born. But the summer grade fuel burns cleaner and helps our cars produce less smog, which is great because there are a lot more cars on the road in the summer. So we're spending $1 billion to get, to the beach, but at least we are helping protect what's left of the ozone. By the way, I use Gas Buddy and I love it. So this isn't a commercial, but I love Gas Buddy. So here's what I want to know, Greg. Is it too late for a summer gas hike play?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that happens every year, so it's already priced in. It's not that crazy. And then the amount extra that it costs, it could be like, to you, it could cost you about 17 cents on average more. Yeah, I mean, it's something I learned a long time in physics class. I think it's Reed's vapor pressure is the difference in it. Essentially, the winter gas, has to be easier to evaporate to burn in your engine. Therefore, if you use it in the summer, it'll go away, so on and so on. But yeah, that's kind of nerdy. I don't know why I know that still. But diesel, on the other hand, you do have it like in very cold areas. It could get gummy, so you have different diesels for that. And for gas, I completely forgot about it. That makes sense. But yeah, no, there's no play in it. It's something that everyone knows happens.
Okay.
So it's already built into it. So when you're playing gasoline like that, you're really playing futures. And so you're doing it at a certain time, and it's already going to be priced in. It's not something you're going to be able to make money off of there.
Okay, cool beans. So I want to thank lead instructor at OptionsPlayers.com, Greg Krause, for sitting in for Dave today. Remember, if you've got a question, we can try to help you answer them. And we love to hear from you. Email us at www.optionsplayers.com or hit us up on social media at What's Next Wall Street. You can, of course, watch episodes of What's Next Wall Street on Options Players YouTube page or listen on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you subscribe and then hit the alert button so that you get current trending info as soon as it drops. I'm Georgia Alfredas. He's Greg Krause. See you next time on What's Next Wall Street.